Sidetracked by the war in Ukraine, Israel-Gaza conflict, now the civil war in Syria, another 30-year-old conflict in South Caucasus remains practically unresolved. I am speaking with the Deputy Foreign Minister of Armenia, Paruyr Hovhannisyan. In cautious diplomatic language, he conveys the commitment on the side of the Armenian government to seal a peace treaty with Azerbaijan. Mr. Hovhannisyan, thank you for inaugurating the Voice of Yerevan. The focus of the program and the conversation today will be peace, the prospect of peace in South Caucasus within Armenia-EU and Armenia-US relations that you curate. Biden administration facilitated Armenia and Azerbaijan talks. What does the prospect of peace look like in South Caucasus under Trump administration?
Thank you, and I'm sure Voice of Yerevan would be yet another tool to promote and to demonstrate the efforts the foreign ministry and government of Armenia is trying effortlessly to deliver. And of course, establishment of peace is the highest priority for us. You rightly mentioned that in the context of our unprecedentedly active relations with both the European Union and the United States. Indeed, both the US and EU been playing most important role in trying to establish peace in the South Caucasus and to assist the normalization efforts between Armenia and Azerbaijan. You know, there have been a number of rounds organized in Washington, but also outside Washington, trying to help to accomplish negotiations around the peace agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan, and those efforts been largely productive. As you know, there have been a number of statements by Prime Minister and Foreign Minister that the peace agreement, which consists of 17 chapters, are largely accomplished. There are still some disagreements about 2 chapters, but all in all, the activities being productive, and the treaty could be finalized relatively soon, of course, if there is a political will to do so. Armenia numerously stated its readiness to accomplish the negotiations in the possibly short period, which would facilitate our efforts in other directions.
The Armenian government has been pushing the peace agenda internally and externally under significant domestic pressure. The opposition believes the authorities lack principles in the process. Armenian prisoners of war are still in Baku prisons. The significant military budget differences, a roughly 3 times larger population, as well as a recent defeat of ethnic Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh, leave no room for doubt. While Azerbaijan is in an unquestionably dominant position, holding almost all the cards, Armenia is the side that actually wants and needs peace to recuperate. Despite the prolonged effort, and a dozen drafts later, the peace treaty is not signed yet. Why? What is the roadblock?
Besides the peace treaty, the efforts been ongoing in parallel dimensions. It's the work around the delimitation, the process, and the opening communications in the region. While talking about delimitation, we have the first treaty ever signed and ratified by Armenia and Azerbaijan on the rules of procedure reglement of the how to start delimitation and how to conduct that. That has been a tangible achievement, I would say. Again, the treaty is not yet signed, yet all the necessary activities, preparations been done. We are living in quite uncertain times. Of course, many factors affecting the process. From our side, I can say we did everything possible to accomplish the negotiations still this year. There have been many hopes to achieve this result before or during the COP29 conference in Azerbaijan. Unfortunately, we don't have this result yet, but certainly the windows of opportunities are there. We are still ongoing the different activities to that end. And of course, both United States and European Union would be among the key partners to this end. It's been declared many times on all levels, from Brussels and in Washington, but also in many European capitals, that the full backing to this process is there.
Despite mediation and facilitation efforts on the side of the West, and the commitment on the side of the Armenian government to have the peace treaty in place, we do not see what could possibly tip the scale in Baku in favor of peace. I'd like to enumerate the demands that are being put forth by Baku. Changes to the Armenian constitution, disbanding of the Minsk group, even removal of the EU civilian mission from the border, dropping cases at international courts. These requests are difficult to fulfill and raise a concern as to how sincere Baku is in their intentions to actually have peace. How could our Western partners weigh in on this issue to actually help bring peace about?
You rightly mentioned these demands or sometimes excuses to delay the signature of the agreement and to advance the peace process. Yet, I have found out how substantiated are those demands. And we hear positions and voices from European capitals, from Washington, from Canada, from other partners, that they do not see any substantial reason why not to advance the peace process and why not to conclude the agreement. And this is also a result of our activities from the foreign ministry. You see the support to the European monitors. Last one was the Polish president visiting Yuma. There have been many messages and many visits from European leaders. And this shows that this rhetoric do not find any reactions from the West, but still to advise Azerbaijan to concentrate on peace efforts. I don't think the Minsk group activities, which long time is passive because of position of Azerbaijan, or the artificial, I would say, demands related to constitution, find any understanding in our traditional partners. So the calls from Europe and from US is quite clear. What they expect from us, but in particular from Azerbaijan, to have the document signed. They see no any reason to prolong the negotiations. The world is impatient to see the peace established in this region. We would continue the efforts to this end. As I said, it could be frustrating not to have the results right now, but it is also very encouraging that despite the very difficult and complicated international and regional environment, we still managed to achieve such a tangible results, which I mentioned earlier.
One of the pivotal issues on the negotiation agenda is the unblocking of communications between Armenia and Azerbaijan.
Armenia is ready to establish 5 checkpoints on the Armenia-Azerbaijan borders for road infrastructures, including Kayan, Sot, near Karahunj, near Angeragot, and Yerask. Also to establish 2 checkpoints on the Armenia-Turkey border in Akhurik and Margara for road infrastructures. Armenia is prepared to ensure communications between Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Turkey by restoring 4 railway sections in the territory of the Republic of Armenia. Armenia is ready to restore the Nernadzor-Agarak railway section and to establish checkpoints near the borders, to restore the railway section from Yerask to the border of Nakhichevan, and to establish a checkpoint in Yerask, to restore the depleted parts of the railway from Gyumri to the border of Turkey, and to establish a checkpoint in Akhurik. Also, Armenia is prepared to restore the depleted parts of the railway from Harazdan to Kayan, and to establish a checkpoint in Kayan. This will create new links between all the countries of the region. The principles of the Crossroads of Peace are: all infrastructures, including roads, railways, airways, pipelines, cables, and power lines, operate under the sovereignty and jurisdiction of the countries through which they pass. Each country, through its state institutions, in its territory ensures border, customs control, and security of all the infrastructures, including the passage through its territory of vehicles, cargo, and people. All infrastructures can be used for both international and domestic transportation. Countries use all the infrastructures on the basis of reciprocity and equality. In accordance with these principles, border and customs controls can be facilitated through mutual consent and agreement. As missing sections of railways and roads are restored and infrastructures unlocked, it will become possible to establish a seamless connection between the Persian Gulf, the Gulf of Oman, the Black Sea, the Caspian Sea, and the Mediterranean Sea, via a consolidated regional railway network and via north, south, and east-west roads.
But at the instigation of Moscow, Baku demands a corridor instead that would compromise Armenia's sovereignty and give Moscow even more political and economic leverage in the region by checkpoint oversight.
Is there anything else? Is there a tool in the toolkit of our Western partners that has not been implemented to bring peace about?
Well, there could always be additional efforts implemented, but let's look at the facts. We have, for the first time in history, on 5th of April earlier this year, the first summit between Armenia, United States, and European Union. It was Prime Minister Pashinyan, Secretary of State Blinken, the Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, Charles Michel, President of EU Council, Joseph Borrell, the High Representative, so all the highest officials in EU and US with Armenia, and we adopted very important declaration which contained, first of all, it was support to the peace. That was among most important elements in the message which the summit sent. Of course, support to Armenia on strengthening its democracy, as humanitarian assistance and economic plans. That was quite an important guideline, and we see the results of that. We, during this summer, have an unusually active period of our cooperation with the United States, and as a result, we had advancement on our strategic dialogue, which being upgraded to strategic partnership level. We had advancement on areas like decentralization. We had a delegation composed of many local elected representatives. That was unique format for the US. I haven't heard with any other country they would do that. We had increased cooperation on security issues. There was parliamentary aspect, the congressional delegation. On human rights, we had a good dialogue with one of Assistant Secretaries of State and a number of other delegations which would increase cooperation on topics like food security, energy, and so on. With the United States, we are accomplishing the negotiations around the new partnership agenda, new document which would enrich and enlarge our SEPA agreement, which is association light, I would say, of between Armenia and EU, and would encompass such an important areas like political and security dialogue. You already mentioned the European observers, but we have other plans, which was never the case before, to increase the cooperation with the European Union in that direction. And the EU is becoming a serious player. We now have a new Commissioner for Defense. We have increased capacities within the European Union in that area, which is for us a priority. We signed a number of documents since Prime Minister's statement in the European Parliament, which was also unique in our modern history. The things started to move very quickly. We concluded agreement with Eurojust, with Europol. We have those documents signed and ratified. We had a green light for our visa liberalization talks, something Armenian people would expect it for a long time. We finally reached the agreement so Armenia could profit from the European Peace Facility, very important mechanism of the European Union to increase our defensive capacities. I can't mention now all, but this is indeed unprecedented activities on both tracks. And this is combining with the efforts to establish a peace of a region, indeed placing our relations with both US and EU on qualitatively new level.
If international support for peace is not generated, their 2 years of governance ahead might become a lost opportunity for peace in the region. Aliyev does not seem to be in a hurry. Protracted peace talks might in fact prove to become an excuse for Aliyev to resume military action, since feeding feud against Armenians is state policy in Azerbaijan, a way of redirecting hostility from an authoritarian regime to an external demonized enemy. The Armenian society, in the meanwhile, youth specifically, sees the prospect of peace from a very different, a pacifistic angle.
What I can say is based on public statements of the representatives of the two countries, and I think Armenia is willing to seal a deal as soon as possible, and on the other hand, Azerbaijan is not willing. But I guess peace is something unavoidable, and of course myself and probably most of my compatriots want the peace deal to happen, because without peace it's impossible to thrive. So of course we're willing to see it happen.
I do believe in the prospect of peace, and I believe that we can achieve peace by mutual understanding, by sustained efforts and compromises. And Armenia is eager to maintain the peace, and what is coming from our side, we are eager even to sign the treaty. But on the other hand, Azerbaijan is not in a hurry.
First and foremost, we need to take into account that we are speaking about negotiations, and open contempt and disrespect towards one of the negotiating parties, negotiations does not make. I also firmly believe that we need to make an important part of the conversation those who were displaced from their homes, our Artsakhi brethren and sisters, and I believe their voice needs to be clearly heard around the negotiation table.
In my view, peace perspective for Armenia includes such factors such as commitment to compromise and open dialogue, and as far as I'm concerned, Armenia is ready and eager to follow all these principles and include them in our peace process. However, as we see, Azerbaijan always keeps coming up with new pretensions and requirements, which, as we see, disrupts the peace process.
I believe that in order to have long-lasting peace with Azerbaijan, we need to rely on Western partnership, and with the influence of Western authorities only, and only then we will be able to have a peace treaty with Azerbaijan. Because at the end of the day, it's not about only peace between the two countries, because signing only the peace will not guarantee the peace. But if we have the Western influence, and if we have Western guarantee in Armenia that they will maintain that peace and long-lasting peace, and only then I believe that we will be able to succeed in this front.
Peace is a fundamental aspiration for any society, including ours. However, achieving peace requires addressing a lot of deeply rooted social, historical, and political challenges.
As a pacifist, I think that peace is possible, but in this case, Azerbaijan is trying to prolong this peace process in order to gain whether international weight or more profit from this question.
Security-wise, you mentioned the European Peace Facility, the civilian mission on the border, as well as the Commission for Defense. Do you not think that these sound like the wrappings of the candy? What I mean by this is that Armenia is a country with urgent security needs. Are we getting as much as we need? Are we getting exactly what we need?
It's hard to respond exactly if we're getting what we need, but we are moving to what we need, that's for sure. And besides the progress in that area with the European Union and the United States, we have also additional bilateral tracks, be it with France, be it with India, with other European countries. Definitely we are trying to reach that level. I can't confirm now that we got what we need, but certainly we are moving to that direction and ensuring the appropriate defensive capacities. This is the legitimate right of any country, and this is a must for any country. So definitely it is among the priorities of foreign ministry to work, be it on multilateral level or in bilateral level. So we would continue to do so.
Thank you one more time.
Thank you.
So far, the West has offered facilitation and a platform for negotiations that Baku recently turned down. Will support and commitment be generated to ensure peace in South Caucasus, or will this conflict at some point be ignored and erupt into a yet another bloody, life and finance consuming war is yet to be discovered.